We're in the longitude today. The main reason for choosing the longitude, let me just check the volume levels before I start yapping on. The main reason we're choosing the longitude is because it has an auto throttle, and it will hopefully defeat the bug in Flight Sim at the moment where it cuts the throttle now and again, which we've been bitten by a few times recently. So let's go and work around the airplane. So electrical section, left and right battery switches go to on. I need to go and make the sound come out of my headset as well, otherwise I can't hear anything. And Control 9 takes us over to the overhead panel. We want to put the emergency lights on, or arm them, I should say. And the recognition lights to on. Then down on the APU, we're going to go and put the APU to start. And hopefully we'll hear things. Oh, before we go much further, we ought to put some fuel in the aeroplane, make sure we've got enough to get there. I mean, this plane's got a hell of a range anyway, so it's not really a concern. Okay, so then back on the instrument panel, standby power goes to on, so that's here. And then on the primary flight displays, monitor the APU at the bottom margin so you can see it down here. So it's up and running. So we're waiting for 100%, it's at 100%, that's good. We can go and calibrate the barometric pressure while we're here.
TOS system test, OK.
We can set the flaps to 1. We can trim the vertical stabilizers. So we're looking at the trim here. We're doing this to avoid the horn when we accelerate down the runway. So it needs to be in the green range. Okay, so then Control 3. In the FMC, we're going to go and program the flight plan. So we appear to have the... Is this a GTN 750? I'd forgotten this had this in it. Have I put the PMS in it? I don't think I have I? So we're going to program it by hand then. So we're going from OMRK. So on our last leg on the Round the World, we landed at Al Jazeera Aviation Club. We've just driven around the corner to get into a bigger plane to do the next leg in a timely manner, basically, to keep the legs down to a few hours instead of half a day. So OMRK is our departure airfield. So OMRK, Ras Al Khaimah International, enter. And we're going to Jinnah International in Karachi, which is OPKC. OPKC. Enter. And then we're going to be doing some procedures, but we'll put the en route waypoints in first. So if you look here, we're going to go via FJV. And press enter. And then on to MCT. And it's obviously got 3 of them. We want Muscat in Oman. Can we can't use the mouse to drag this, but we can drag it with the scroll bar. So CBH, or Charlie Bravo Hotel, in Iran, that's correct. And then insert after. We want the TU VOR. Interesting. Well, has it got one for just TU? Press enter. And it's going to be the TU in Pakistan, because that is inside the border of Pakistan. And then another en route waypoint is going to be Dosti, which is where we join the standard terminal arrival route. Okay, so then we go to procedures, and we're going to say our departure. We are departing runway 16 on the EMOP2S SID. So, runway 16, we want EMOP2S. Just double check that, EMOP2S, yes. And then the arrival will be DOST 1D. Okay, so, oh, we need to load that, by the way. Otherwise nothing appears. Procedures, arrival, and it was the DOST 1D arrival. And there it is. And we're going to go for runway 25 left. And we load that. And we go for approach. And we're doing the ILS-Z approach, runway 25 left. ILS, we've got ILS-Y there, ILS-Z. And we can use vectors or Saban. I think we've got Saban here. Yeah, we have. And load. Okay. So if we come back out and go to the map, or not even there, the map screen's here, isn't it? I have to remember now how to control the map, which is going to be fun. Can we go full screen on this? Full. There we go. So then we get more of an idea while we're flying along. Okay. Oh, here's the... Yeah, here we go, look. So we got push to pan, range minus plus on the knob here. So if we go and zoom out, we can just at least get a gross check of it to see if it looks good. Yeah, that looks okay. It's going the right direction anyway. I don't know if you have a step mode in this aircraft to walk through the legs, and I'm not sure. Anyway, we've programmed the flight plan. Do we need to do any performance data? Probably not. It's such a basic aeroplane. So Control 2 comes over to the MCP. So we've already calibrated the barometric pressure on the altimeter. So we'll go and set cruise. We're going east, so it's going to be an odd number. We'll go for 35,000. Set the initial heading, I guess, for the runway direction. So if we go and have a look, the runway is actually 163 degrees. So we've got heading over here. So it's the opposite side of the compass. Of course it is. It's always the opposite side, isn't it? So obviously the GPS is in FMS mode on the HSI, which means the GPS is already pointing in the runway direction, which is always handy. And we can also set the speed as required for the target airspeed. Actually, I don't think we can until we are... It's in FMS mode at the moment, but obviously we can change that. And we could go for 220, go a bit faster on the climb out, and then we'll adjust it as we go. So yeah, it's been a while since I've used this aeroplane. So where's the auto throttle control? Is it down here? Or do you just put it in speed mode up here, I guess? Push indicated airspeed Mach. So you've got manual speed mode, automatic. So autopilot. You've got the flight directors there. I'm guessing they're already on, are they? That's just going to make... Oh, here we go. They've switched on. Anyway, let's go back to the checklist. It's so long since I've flown this aeroplane. Okay, so Control 6 is the pilot Garmin. This is interesting, isn't it? So we can set the CDI mode in here. So we're in FMS mode, which is what we want. We can set the takeoff V-speeds, so speed bugs. So let's go and do that. and we can push back and start the engines. I don't think we need to push back, to be honest. We're sat out on the stand here away from everything, which is fine. Okay, so Control 9, turn the anti-collision lights on. Center pedestal. And the engine, right engine to run stop switch to run. So this is going to take me a while to learn my way around this again. And then start the right engine. So then on the primary flight display, obviously we can see the engine coming up. The light's a bit feeble underneath, isn't it? So just looking at the live stream comments, there's a question there, which Garmin am I using? Whatever's in the aeroplane. This is the stock longitude. So I'm guessing it's whatever it ships with. Okay, so that engine's up and running. So then we can go back down and we can do the same on the other engine. So put it into run mode and start the engine, and it should start itself up. So we can watch the numbers come up. So then come back down and we can turn the APU back to off now. We can go and put the taxi lights on overhead. And we can go and get ready for takeoff. Well, we'll taxi first, obviously. So we are taking off. Let's go and have a look at the map. So we're going to backtrack along the runway for runway 16. So we want to go down there, so we're going to have to turn left first. So let's put the head tracking on, come off the parking brake. Oh, let's go, before we do anything, make sure I'm controlling both engines. I always forget to do this and then go corkscrewing off across the grass and wonder what's happening. Yeah, I've got a single engine profile on here. I think I've got one specifically for the CRJ. Oh no, see, we're in the let's have a look. I've got a 2-engine generic profile here, so let me just turn off head tracking for a moment. Put the parking brake back on. So this aircraft does have reversers, but I've not got it configured for them. Okay, so we'll just hope we've got a long runway at the other end. We'll be using the brakes. So let's hope we don't knock the guy off of his electric scooter. So we're going to backtrack down the runway to take off runway 16. Those mountains in the distance look amazing, don't they? Okay, we should see the turning area in a moment. Okay, here we are. Whoa, what caused the stutter? So the Longitude, as far as I'm aware, comes with the premium version of Flight Simulator. So the various versions of the simulator are all the same, they just come with a few freebies with each level up. But the base simulator is identical. So I'm just going to go and have a quick look here before we do anything else about how we engage auto throttle. Is it on the yoke? I can't remember for the life of me how you do it. So we've got the master control panel obviously up here. Where is the auto throttle switch? Is on the throttle underneath the cylinder. Oh yes, yeah, I've forgotten that. Yeah, there we go. There's a button on the back. So let me go and see if I can move the view round to show people. So if I bring the view, yeah, it's different. There's the buttons for the auto throttle. And that's why I had trouble remembering where they were. Okay, so we have done the lights, everything else is ready to go. I think this aeroplane is quite dumbed down, but that suits us really, just to whiz across the landscape at speed. We've got the target altitude set. Can we preset the nav modes? So if we go nav, yeah, we get FMS. Can we go for flight level change as well? To go immediately for altitude? Yes, we can. So at the moment we bring the power on. So let's put the head tracking on, full throttle. Whoa! Of course I'm heavy, aren't I? It really didn't like that. It nearly dropped a wing. So I have to be mindful of that on takeoff. So the rotate speed was a little bit wrong. Just trimming it. Whoa, it's very pitch sensitive, isn't it? Let me just fix that for a moment. Just playing with this. So we've drifted off to the right of the track, but I'm having a play with the aeroplane. So if we go to autopilot mode now, obviously it's going to go for flight level change, and we can go and engage auto throttle. And it's gone for 80 knots, which is really useful. So we'll just fix that, shall we? And I can't, apparently, I'm holding shift down, and the speed bug is the slowest moving speed bug in the known universe. So it's now dropping the nose in order to accelerate to get to 250 knots. Shall we increase the range on the display? So I think the only rule was you have to be 6,000 feet by the time you get to Darto on the restrictions for the climb out. So let's go and set this speed bug for further up. So 250 until we get past 10,000, which is going to happen first, to be honest. What was the transition altitude around here? Let's go and have a look. So it won't have it easily on here, will it? I'll have to go and copy the flight plan to the clipboard and then go to Navigraph and look at the plate. I haven't got a Simbrief flight plan, so we're going to do a new flight and paste it in up here, and then look on the departure. So you can see we're just making the turn at Darto. Oh, it's 6,000 at MOP, so we're way ahead of schedule. I was looking for transition altitude, so 13,000 feet, that's what we wanted to know. So we just come through 10,000 feet, so the landing lights can come off. Why did the recognition light go off with the landing lights? That's interesting. So someone's shouting there, flaps 2 is standard for takeoff. Yeah, I only went to flaps 1. On my notes I had flaps 1 written down with rotate at 120 plus knots. But yeah, I'll need to revise my notes then by the look of it. We're about to come through 14,000 feet. So we need to go and, can we pull the barrow or press the barrow button to go to standard? Yes, we can. Awesome. That made that nice and easy then. Did that do it on both sides? Yes, it did. Well, this aeroplane's very easy to operate then, isn't it? Let's go and have a look from outside. It is gorgeous, isn't it? It might not be the most accurately simulated aeroplane in the sim, but it is one of the prettiest. Okay, obviously we're through to 10,000 feet now as well, 18,000 now even. So let's go and, if we go FMS mode, what speed is it going to choose? 270, that's a bit slow, isn't it? We're going to push on. We could go for a high altitude, couldn't we? So let's let this climb out to 40,000 feet. It's well capable of doing it. Yeah, should be fine. We will obviously have to walk this back, unless it does it automatically for us, because as we get higher, the indicated airspeed will be less for the... You can't really set it for Mach number, I don't think. So we will end up overspeeding. Unless it's clever enough to walk the indicated airspeed back as we climb. Or to walk the target back, I should say. We'll find out. Oh, the sim has just frozen. Give it a second. And we've lost the engines, but will the auto throttle save us? No, it won't. So that actually killed the auto throttles as well then, with the same bug we've seen from the last month in the sim. So much for making my life easy. I have to keep an eye on the throttles the whole time. I've heard so many people talking about that exact same bug. It's amazing that it got through testing, to be honest, but then it might be a nightmare to find it. Because it is so rare that it happens. So we're doing Mach 0.7. That looks like a photograph, doesn't it? It's crazy. So the settlement we are just passing down there. Fujairah, is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, so just looking at Mouldy Guitars there in the live stream comments are saying he hasn't seen any throttle issues. It seems to be dependent on hardware. Someone's saying we should be climbing in FMS mode. Yes, I know. We're just doing flight level change straight to altitude. We're not flying by the book today. We're just getting the aeroplane there, pushing it against its limits, basically. It isn't an accurately simulated longitude. So there's no point doing things too much by the book. So we're flying out towards the VOR now. Let's go and have a look on the map. So it's the Muscat VOR. So 140 miles to get there, basically, or near enough. Leaving the... Now, I'm going to get the names of these places horribly wrong. Fujairah, I think it is. So we've just crossed the border, I think, into what would this be? Oman airspace. Then once we get to Muscat, we'll turn left, go over the Gulf of Oman, and we'll be in Iranian airspace for a very short time, and then over into Pakistan. And a bit later on this evening we will land at Karachi, so we've got a nice approach in. It loops in, it goes overhead via the VOR, then loops in into the runway. The wind on the ground down here isn't what... That's our local wind. So if we go and hover the mouse over, you can see the wind is 240, 10 knots, which supports landing, obviously, on, what is that, runway 25. It'd be interesting to go and have a look at the actual chart for that on Navigraph, actually. So there's the... Yeah, there's the arrival route, and then the approach is quite straightforward after that, straight in. It's a good one, isn't it? So just coming up to 30,000 feet, and like I said, yeah, it's not walking back the speed, so we're getting a warning. So we'll have to walk it back as we get into the higher altitudes, which means we can climb. So we're doing Mach 0.84, which isn't bad going for a business jet. Yeah, this, I will admit, this does look quite good. It's not obviously as good as the proper Garmin one. I don't know if you're aware, but the TDS Garmin unit is the Garmin software, but it's been obviously heavily modified to integrate it with both the simulator and Navigraph. It's a wonderful piece of kit. But the reason it looks that little bit higher fidelity is because it is actually the interface you're seeing is the Garmin unit. We've just had that bug again. Look at that, look at the throttle. I wonder, if I replace my USB hub and buy new controls, I wonder if it would solve it and stop it from doing it. Because I think the pausing in the simulator is related to it. I wonder if I went and bought a honeycomb set of kit, if it would kill it off from doing it completely. Go and get a honeycomb yoke. Yeah, look. So we've hit 34. We've gone. That's interesting that it's. What it's doing, it's obviously seen the overspeed. No, that was the same bug again. It had killed the throttles. So someone's saying in the map settings you can put the flight plan text in. So there's all sorts of options in here, isn't there? It's very good. Very cool. Yeah, it's like you said in the live stream comments, Working Title have done a great job on this. There's all sorts of bits and pieces in it that are very good. If we take this out of full screen mode, we obviously get both displays to play with. So I'm guessing then that will do range, yeah, on TCAS. So Azil's asking why the A320 or 737 don't use these systems, because they develop their own. And the guidance systems on the more modern civil airliners are a fair bit more detailed, and they're obviously tailored for the aircraft as well. So their predictive abilities with VNAV and things like that are much. They're just more tailored to the aircraft. That's all. Obviously, the Garmin units are very good as well. That's the throttle, done it again. Yep, throttles have kicked back, look, they've gone to 0. So let's put this on FMS mode. And just let it do what it wants. So it's going basically for a speed that will be okay at the altitude we're aiming for. We are shifting though, look, max 0.76 once we level out. It is really moving. this throttle problem only happened since the last update, so there's something about it losing sight of the USB devices. That's the other thing that's the cause of it, is the stuttering. When the simulator freezes, loads of people get that freezing. I thought I'd found the root cause of it last week, but no, it's carried on doing it. So I'll start out by replacing the USB hub to see if it is the root cause, although I very much doubt it. I've seen one other game suffer from this USB issue, but no other games. So Commander John Pookie is flying around the world in a tri-motor. Now that's brave. Back in North America, Canada currently, after 44 legs, and I'm not done yet. Let's have a look outside. Oh, we have contrails. Does anybody else get this graphical artifact when it's drawing contrails? Winds me up. It appeared about 3 or 4 updates ago. I haven't played with changing the rendering method to see if it disappears. We've just lost the throttles again. Oh no, it's overspeeding. So the wind has changed. So what's it going to do then? We've got one throttle. It's having fun, isn't it? So if I give the other throttle a twist, yeah, it had gone wrong and it had oversped. Is it actually switched off? Yeah, the auto throttles had come off. Or I think they had. So it's got speed mode now. Let's see how long it'll keep it up for then before it trips out again. Yeah, it's not gonna maintain that, is it? I'm gonna have to give it some breathing space. It's too close. If the wind shifts, we'll end up being overspeed. We'll just get us a little bit further away from the maximum, say 240. So ground speed is 440 knots-ish, which isn't too bad. The scenery's amazing, isn't it? The world from 40,000 feet. So, Hunogel says, are you too late? No, we only took off a little while ago. We've left, if I open LittleNavMap up, you can see we left Dubai, or that small airfield. Actually, we switched airfields, because when we landed on the previous leg, we were at Al Jazeera, and we drove around the corner and jumped in a business jet at Ras Al Khaimah International, and we are on our way towards Muscat, and then we're going to cross over into Iranian airspace briefly before going into Pakistan. So you can see Muscat below us, just appearing. You can see the international airport down there already. So, Average AV Gig, great name by the way. Could you do an ILS tutorial on the 777? Yeah, a few people have been asking me to do some 777 videos. Yeah, I need to, because I've hardly flown it. And when not long after it came out, the MD-11 came out, and then not long after the MD-11 came out, the 727 came out. So I've been focusing on those because they are quite a bit more complicated then. I guess the 777 is similar to the 747, or the more modern 747s. So it's actually very automated and quite easy to control. Look at this mountain. They're amazing, aren't they? So what can I tell you about Muscat while we're flying overhead? So Muscat is the capital and most populated city in Oman. It is the seat of the government of Muscat. According to the National Centre for Statistics and Information, the total population of Muscat Governorate was 1.72 million in September 2022. So evidence of people living in the area dates back to the 6th millennium BC in Ras Al Hamra, where burial sites of fishermen have been found. Muscat's notability as a port was acknowledged as early as the 1st century AD by the Greek geographer Ptolemy, who referred to it as Cryptus Portus, the hidden port, and by Pliny the Elder, who called it Amethyscuta. This scenery down here looks amazing, doesn't it? I have to come back with a GA plane just to fly along this coast. This is aerial reconnaissance. So Tim Waters saying he can't leave the 727 alone. I did a group flight with it last night with my air, and I actually got several pats on the back from people who saw me do the approach, and they knew, obviously they'd seen about the 727, and I pretty much nailed the approach, which was more by luck than judgment. But yeah, I managed to follow a star and an approach in, quite a fiddly one, and managed altitude and brought it in basically on the numbers without any klaxons going off. I pretty much solved the pressurization problems I was having. So once you realise that you can't climb like crazy and you have to give the aircraft a chance, it quietened down. This scenery is amazing, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. So, in terms of history, Portuguese Admiral Alfonso de Albuquerque sailed to Muscat in 1507 in an attempt to establish trade relations. As he approached the harbour, his ships were fired on. He then decided to conquer Muscat. Most of the city burned to the ground during and after the fighting. The Portuguese maintained a hold on Muscat for over a century. Despite challenges from Persia and a bombardment of the town by the Ottoman Turks, the Turks twice captured Muscat from the Portuguese. So this is still, we're talking 500 or 400 years ago. Yeah, it's obviously got very rich history, this part of the world, so the Wikipedia page goes on for pages and pages. I won't bore you to death with it all. It looks like a fascinating story. It's funny, everywhere we fly in the simulator, I end up thinking I need to get a book on this place because it looks so fascinating. But that scenery is something else, isn't it? Okay, so we're leaving Muscat behind and we're on our way to Iran. I'm just checking the speed now and again. So if we go and have a look on Navigraph, will that actually give us the airspaces between the two places? If we change the map here to show, there's a sector line there. If we show auto IFR, so yeah, the line is there, look, in the airspace between Muscat and Tehran. Interesting. So we're still in Omani airspace at the moment. That's interesting that we've got Mumbai out here. So the airspace controlled by Mumbai is gigantic. The actual Pakistan airspace is quite small for Karachi. So obviously we're heading into Karachi, but let me get rid of the plate for the moment. And obviously we're not using airways, we're just going VOR to VOR hopping, but we could have followed airways if we wanted to. Looks like it would have been, what, G216 and A791. And that would have taken us in to join, although saying that, we would have had to go to Dosti for the approach we're doing. It would have been a different one, probably Lotat, maybe somewhere like that it would have joined in. I don't know if you're aware you can do this in Navigraph. If we were to remove that approach and show the arrivals available, it will it will draw all of them on. So yeah, there we go, Lotat, it would have been that one. And we would have been doing a teardrop to come in on approach. So was it Dosta? Was it 2B? Let's go and have a quick look. Window, open window layout, default. Let's make this a bit wider. Dosta 1D. Or Dost, oh that's the 7 left approaches, we want the other ones, don't we? Dost 1D, there it is. So is there any weather we need to know about? No, we're clear all the way. And what about at the altitude we're at, which was 40? There's a bit of cloud, but nothing worth worrying about. Yeah, LittleNavMap, we're just reading the live stream comments. LittleNavMap is very good at showing the procedures as well, isn't it? If you right click on an airfield, for example, and show them, you can then superimpose them on. Don't know if people knew you could do that. So you can just go and pick them and flick through them and see what they look like. It's not always tremendously accurate in the way it renders it, because it doesn't render corners properly. But at least it puts the constraints in, and it shows the constraints. If you show them, if you go in the flight plan window, you can tick off what you want to see. I typically only show the procedure, the airway, and the restrictions. Gives you enough to go on. Okay. I wonder if I can trust this aeroplane to keep flying if I go and make a coffee. I haven't flown the Longitude for a very long time. My dad flies it all the time. I think he pops the screens out and puts them into... He's got G1000s, the real SimGear G1000 screens. I think he pops the screens out and puts them into the G1000. I've forgotten how you do it. Do you hold the right Alt key down and click on them? Yeah, there you go. I don't know if you knew you could do that. So if you've got multiple screens, you can pop the screens out and put them on other monitors. So if you can get these like either HDMI or little USB monitors, you can do that. So you could seriously make yourself a cockpit with a couple of extra screens simulating the aircraft if you really wanted to. So Nev Haycox is saying he's doing around the world, and he flew from Nagasaki to Kushiro in Japan. Highlight was flying around Mount Fuji. I did a group flight with MyAir a few years back, and we flew into Nagasaki at sunset, coming in from the southeast of Nagasaki. There's one of the standard terminal arrival routes goes between the hills on the southwestern part of the island there. It was absolutely stunning. I'll have to reenact it at some point. So yeah, a sunset landing at Nagasaki, coming in through the hills. So we're leaving Muscat way behind in the distance now. So we're over the ocean on our way to Iranian airspace. So if we go back to the minimal layout, stick it up in the corner, you can see the next waypoint coming. So I'm going to make a quick coffee. Hopefully the airplane won't fall out of the sky. Even if it does, it's got 40,000 feet to fall, so it should be okay. I'll be back in a minute. Okay. We are narrowing in on Konarak in Iran. So just to give ourselves a wider idea of where we are, Iran is a huge country, isn't it? And so Tehran is right at the far end from where we are. So Shiraz, we're right down in the southeast corner. Very rare that I fly at these sort of altitudes. So I'm just working out in my head, it's 3 times, isn't it? So we want 120 miles to descend. Although saying that business jets can come down quickly, but using the kind of 3-to-1 ratio, if no one has ever heard of this, you're basically looking at 3 miles per 1,000 feet. Or sorry, 30. So for each 1,000 feet you multiply by 3 that you need to descend, and that gives you your miles. So Paul Aerosmith says, late flying again? Yep. I did a video earlier this evening, but it's sat in YouTube and I can't talk about it. It's sat in YouTube unlisted and an email has gone to somebody, so you will see that email see the light of day in a few days' time. So I have been busy, but not for immediate consumption. I can't talk about why. You'll find out. I think it's been the biggest learning curve for me with doing the messing around with the simulator, is obviously because I've attracted quite a number of subscribers now, which I haven't even looked at the numbers recently. I don't know how many I've got. Obviously, because I've got that many subscribers, I've become interesting to commercial entities. I get some of the strangest requests to cover things on the channel, things that are not to do with the simulator. I've had a company that makes car dashboard recorders, you know, they're video webcam recorders for dash cams, aren't they, they're called. I've had a company that makes them. They've approached me twice to cover them on the channel. I really don't know why the numbers on the channel have gone so high, because I've not really changed what I do. Maybe that's why, because I haven't changed what I do. I just do what I do, and I haven't become commercial about it. I like picking the new aeroplanes to pieces and figuring out how they work. That's kind of become my thing. And the flying around the world has been an excuse to actually go flying, which I hadn't done for a while. There are certain YouTubers out there that I obviously see in my feed that winding me up a bit, that they just ask about, and I'm not going to name any names because that wouldn't be fair, but then they've found their niche. They do far better than anybody else does. So the entertainment factor of just messing about in kind of Top Gear fashion seems to pay off. But I'm not going to chase the numbers like that. I'm just going to do what I do. So John says, be careful opening any PDFs from prospects or going to links. There have been channel hacks. I work in IT, so I'm pretty aware of, when I visit things, or if I look at the URL that I'm leading to, if anything ever asks me to authenticate anything, yeah, you can rest assured I will be looking at it extremely carefully. I do get some entertaining spam from time to time. Whoa, look at that scenery. That is stunning, isn't it? So I wonder if we've got any geographers around that can explain how that works. I guess that's an area of softer soil that's been washed away by coastal erosion. Either that or it's the remnants of a crater. I have been on, someone's just said, Paul has just mentioned that VR. So Paul fell off his chair head first. Sorry, I was got giggles there. I've been approached recently by Pimax to cover their headsets. But the trouble is, I don't think you can advertise a headset on YouTube. You can't make any meaningful content using it because it's an what's the word? An experiential thing. Virtual reality. You can't communicate it in 2D. It's a bit like having a cooking show on an audio podcast. And saying, if only you could see what this meal looks like. It's a similar thing. So Paul says, the casters on the chair slipped and I went flying and the legs came off and I ended up on the floor tangled in wires whilst flying the Vision jet. So Mr. Bullseye says, an old trick from one IT security guy is to first print it to PDF, print the PDF to JPEG, and then open it in a VM. Well, the trouble is, to turn it into a JPEG, you have to open it. So, I've seen security done on site with work. Typically, if high security organizations, if they need to ingest anything, they have a, well, no, what would you call it, an air-walled PC. So a PC that's not connected to anything and has no way into it other than physical devices. And no way out of it other than physical devices. So say you take something to them on a USB stick, it will go to that PC to have a look at it. And obviously that PC is probably running a VM. So even if it does get lunched by whatever's on the stick, it's not going to do any harm and they can spin it back up again in minutes. Air gaps, that's the word, yeah. Which is, I understand, how George R.R. Martin writes his books. He's got a copy of WordStar on a 1990s vintage PC. And the only way that words go onto or off of that machine is via storage devices like zip disks and floppy disks. Let's just go and check the route, make sure we are still en route. Yep, so we've turned past the VOR. So it was the Char Bahar VOR. And now we're heading off towards the border with Pakistan. Those mountains are something else, aren't they? It's funny, isn't it? They look almost flat from up here, but I can assure you they're not. So, Paul is saying, does anyone think that Flight Sim 2024 will be delayed? Well, they've announced the release date very early, haven't they? So, I would wonder if... Because remember, it's the engine is a rewrite of the engine of Flight Sim, but huge chunks of it are going to be the same under the hood, because they're not... Unless they've got 5 years, they're not going to have rewritten the whole thing. So Neo says, these kinds of people have so much dedication. I don't even have enough motivation to try and actually land. I think half of my fascination with these aeroplanes is the systems, because the nature of my work, I work as a software developer and IT consultant. So the fascination for me is understanding how all the different systems are connected, how they influence each other, which is why the recent 727 that came out is so much fun, because there's lots of switches and buttons and dials and gauges, and it all makes sense once you wrap your head around it. And that's the great thing about all these simulated aeroplanes, is you can get a taste of what it was like for the real crew. And it makes you realise these business jets, the modern business jets, are so automated, it's almost laughable. The flight I did the other evening with the 727, trying to fly a very specific approach into an airport with it, among other traffic, was stressful. You know, just trying to stay ahead of the aeroplane, of operating it correctly. So Mr. Bullseye says, the PDF topic, there are ways to convert since it has such a known attack vector. Cube's OS, for instance, has some built-in tools for such things. It's interesting, really, isn't it? Because the PDF format was opened up years ago. So the structure of the file is well known, therefore you can deconstruct it without opening it. So there are tools to interrogate it. If you open, well, I'm going to give away how much I really know about this now. If you open up a PDF file, it's a zipped collection of UU encoded PostScript files. The reason I know this, well, actually there's different PDF formats, but we'll stay away from that because it's like PDFA, things like that. But the basic PDF format is a zipped collection of UU encoded PostScript files, or a collection of zipped UU encoded files, I should say. So yeah, you can open up a PDF file and find out what's inside it and interrogate it. So obviously security software does exactly that. Starting to give away what I do for work, can't I? Do I have live weather on? Yes, I do. It's incredibly smooth, but we are at 40,000 feet. So does this system give us the wind we are experiencing? I don't think it does it? But LittleNavMap obviously will. Yeah, we've only got 20 knots. It's unusual, isn't it? At this height, you don't typically see 100 knot winds. It's very, very still, but it's evening. I'm not running in live time, so it's evening. But that shouldn't make any difference, of course, because it, you know, The weather doesn't calm down on an evening on purpose. Can we actually wander around the cockpit in this one? No. What about if we go to drone camera? No, it doesn't have an internal. Oh, that's a shame. That's why it's so good on the frame rate though. Should put the head tracking on. I always forget that this has a head-up display. Does it actually work? Apparently not. Unless there's a secret source button somewhere else to make it work. So Paul is asking, yes, this aircraft I believe comes with the premium version of Flight Simulator. So each of the packaged versions of the simulator is the same core simulator, but you just get more and more freebies. But if you add together the cost of the airports and the aeroplanes, if you kind of assign them a cost each, they're not that bad. But they're not study level aeroplanes, it's worth saying. But then study level is such a subjective term. But yeah, they're quite simple to operate, let's put it that way. It is nice to have them though. To be honest, the CJ4, the Citation, I think is the better aeroplane of the two. The only reason I went for this one this evening is because it's got an auto throttle. That was the entire reasoning. I very nearly went with the CRJ. Yeah, and the CJ4 is very, very good. All of the aeroplanes in the sim have been updated repeatedly over the years, so they've got better and better. Let's have a look from outside, shall we? It's amazing scenery, isn't it? Okay, so we are heading in about 300 miles away by the look of it from Karachi. Or maybe closer to 400 miles away, maybe. About halfway through our flight. So Ilan's asking, what was your favourite plane to fly been over the other legs? That's a good question. Probably the TBM 850. The Black Square TBM 850. I have been thinking about doing some much shorter legs to break things up, obviously just to show a variety of different aeroplanes and not using the same one twice if I can help it. And actually go and get things like the some of the local Legend aircraft and use some of those. So do some VOR navigation in a a DC-3. We could use a helicopter, but I wouldn't want to do it for too long a leg. I have got the, what's it called? The Airbus helicopter. Is it the H6 something? The business helicopter that looks really nice. And that's got an autopilot. That's all I was thinking. So if it is a fairly long flight, it wouldn't, it wouldn't be too taxing. This scenery is incredible, isn't it? H160, that's the one I'm thinking of. Have I done a leg in the Comanche yet? Nope. I may get to it. I may go to a load of vintage airplanes. There's things like that people don't often fly that are really wonderful. Like the Globe Swift. It's a really lovely little airplane. There's other ones that I haven't flown for a very long time, like the, oh crikey, the uncrashable, or so the unstallable, what's it called? The air coupe. So, do some legs in some of the little GA planes. I think that would be good fun. Maybe limit them to a couple of 100-mile legs, but and work my way through them. There's also all the Coronado aircraft that are really nicely done in the sim. Things like, the Cessna 182, the Mooney, the Cessna 137, the one with two engines, the push and pull. Oh, so is it 137? No, it's 337, isn't it? Sorry. Oh, there's so many aeroplanes that we could do legs with and just work our way through them. In fact, I could put up a list. I've got a list in Notion of aeroplanes, I think, or a fairly recently updated list. Yeah, there's lots. The Caparoni C22J, there's the Cessna L19 Bird Dog, the Cessna 140, Cessna 170B from Coronado, the 182, the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan, obviously, there's several versions of that, the 310R from Milviz, the 337, that's the one I was thinking of, the Skymaster. Obviously the 414 Chancellor that was being mentioned earlier in the live stream chat. There's the Cessna 915 Business Liner. Also 195, not 915, that's a typo. The V35 Bonanza. There's so many planes that we could go and have fun with. Twin Otter, the Caribou, Tiger Moth. There's some of the planes that came with the sim, like the Diamond DA40, the DA62. Oh, so did DA40, did that come with the sim? I can't remember. I think it did. And of course, then there's all the stall planes like the Freedom Fox and the Savage Carbon and things like that. There's the Jabiru from Iris, Mooney from Coronado. There's the various aircraft that Flight FX have done, which are really nice aeroplanes. Yeah, Kodiak as well, just looking at live stream comments there. That would be a good one for a leg. So yeah, obviously the Piper Comanche, Piper Archer 2, Piper Arrow 3, the Seneca 5, the Seminole. I love the Seminole. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's great. And then there's the Pilatus PC12, PC21, PC6, the Stearman. There's the Robin DR400 that comes with the sim that I've hardly ever flown. The Ryan Navion, which was the derivative of the Mustang that Ryan made after the war. So there's a couple of versions of that. They're both really nicely done, actually. The guy's been learning to build aeroplanes as he goes, and he's done really well. What else? The Scottish Aviation Bulldog from Black Box is really nice. I'm going to say this wrong because I can never remember how you're supposed to say it. Is it CI Marchetti or Marchetti Riviera? The Spartan 7W Executive. That's really lovely, that aeroplane. Obviously there's the Warbirds like the Supermarine Spitfire and the Hurricane. So yeah, the ones I was mentioning earlier, so we've got the Tecnam P2006T, the P2012 from Flight Sim Studios. Aerosax make the Tecnam P92. Then you've got Simworks Studios with the Vans aircraft, so the RV14 and the RV10 and the RV8. Coronado make that wonderful Waco biplane. That might be good fun. Yeah, there's lots and lots of aeroplanes we can go through to try out over the coming weeks of doing this round the world trip. Is the Bonanza G36 any good? Yes, it is. It's very good. And the analog version of it is brilliant, the black square analog version. Actually, all of the black square aircraft are fantastic. If you like GA aircraft and you like dials and switches and stuff, I can't recommend the black square aircraft enough. Also, of course, the BAE 146 for doing, if we do some longer legs along the way, I'll choose some of the big jets. So we'll have the likes of the Mustang. That's the Cessna 510 Mustang, the Honda Jet. We might even go as far as the CRJs and, yeah, 737, the Airbus. Depends what the longer legs are. There's not going to be that many of them. Yeah, the Bronco. I didn't really read out any of the too many of the military aircraft. There's a C-130 as well that's really good. Yeah, the Vilka. The Vilka's fantastic fun. And it's really well simulated as well. Look at these features in the landscape. They're amazing, aren't they? So let's go and see where we are just to check. So a couple hundred miles to go. So let's go and draw a 100-mile range ring on the airport, just to give us a heads up on, so when we get past the next waypoint we'll be looking to start descending probably. even though, don't take any notice of this marker in LittleNavMap. If we go aircraft, open performance, and we go resources, flight sim, LittleNavMap files, performance. Have I got one for the Cessna Longitude? Yes, I have. And then we put in the correct altitude, and it will have a guess at it, but it'll be a bit rubbish. Yes, it's saying 190 miles out. For some reason, people I've downloaded some of these off the internet, the performance files, they're always massively wrong. Or they are invariably massively wrong. You know, somebody coming down at some crazy shallow angle, 1.8 degree descent. Which is just nuts. We can alter that, by the way. So if we go to Edit Aircraft Performance, then you can see in here how it does it. Descent. 700 feet a minute. No, we'd be looking for 1800 feet at least. But I'm not going to alter it in the file. We just won't take any notice of it. Let's have a look at Navigraph as well. So we're almost onto the plate for the standard terminal arrival route. So transition level is 5,000 feet. That's low, isn't it? So can we get an approach chart for 25? Was it 25 right? We said. No, left. ILS. It was the Zulu. ILS or localizer Zulu, 25 left. So pin it. It's a good point actually. Why isn't it? Oh, we haven't actually chosen it. That's why it hasn't come up automatically. So it's the Saban one. There it is. And 25 left here. So then we can show the ILS diagram. So just out of interest, were there any height restrictions on that way? But no, there weren't. So we need to be below 17,000 feet at Kajal. So there's our real marker, and then above 140 at that waypoint. Then we've got above 3,000 at Saban. And then on the actual approach chart, it's got some warnings about high altitude buildings. Look, with 500-600 feet, but we'll be way above them. Coming in Saban at 3,000, look, with a step descent into the ILS. But with a bit of luck, we'll see the ILS from shortly before that. Although we're turning at Saban now, which is right on the edge of the feathers. So if we came in a little bit below, well, we're supposed to be at 3,000, aren't we now? So max 230 knots when we get there. That scenery is incredible, isn't it? Okay. So we're going to ignore that top of descent because we're going to come down far more steeply than it says. We could have a play with the systems on the aeroplane in descent, couldn't we, as well? Because what does it have? It's got, obviously, flight level change mode. It's got vertical speed mode. And it's got the auto throttle as well, so... It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I don't think it's actually got a speed mode. Because it's got the auto throttle. We need to check the frequencies and make sure the nav radios are tuned in for the ILS when we get there. So left runway 10970 degrees. It's probably already programmed in because it was part of the procedure, but we'll go and have a look. There's the comm radios, so we want to go in here and go to nav. No, it hasn't done it. So it was 25 left, 10970. It did have it on nav 2, that's interesting. Unless I've just done both by accident there. And then obviously we'll set the course. But I don't think while we're on FMS mode we can't do much about the course. It'll be fixed. Yeah, see, it's not. I'm rolling the knob and nothing's happening. Yeah, I'll have to change the CDI mode, which was over here, wasn't it? So change it over to VOR mode when we get closer. Obviously when we make that final turn. Does it auto descend if you pre-select an altitude? Well, yeah, because it's got VNAV. So, and as long as it's in your flight plan, although we programmed the flight plan by hand, so we got no data pre-programmed. But if you go and look in VNAV, yeah, look, it's going to come down at 2,300 feet a minute by default. So it's enabled. We could use it. So all we need to do for VNAV then is set our target descent, our target altitude, and then hit VNAV. And it will come down on its own at the point it needs to. That's a good point, actually. So that was saying 2376 feet per minute. So let's go and alter this. Open the air. Oh, we don't want to do that. We want to edit the aircraft performance for the file that we're using. So we got descent. That's as close as, well, you can do this, so that's exactly what it says on the tin for the VNAV descent. So if we OK and save that, it will recalculate. There we go, look. The top of descent now is way inside here. But we're going to do it way before that. So we're not on the limit, so we have time to manage the aircraft along the way. So it should be straightforward. This scenery in here is gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. How are we doing? So about to make the turn at the waypoint, and then we're heading towards our destination. Is there any VORs around? Should we switch over to VOR navigation? What's the range on this one? We want to right click on it, show information for the Karachi VOR, 130 miles. So we should be able to pick it up. So let's go and put the heading bug on the direction we're going. Can we just press it? Yes, we can. I'll wait until we've turned, because we're almost at Dosti. So we'll turn at the Dosti waypoint, then we're on the standard terminal arrival route anyway. And we're turning. So just looking at the scenery out there, there's this, okay, we're the other side of there then is where we're headed, because that's that bay, Mianahor. We're going to pass down the side of that, so it's the other side of that peninsula is where we're heading. Look at that mountain. How cool is that? It's like a plateau on top, isn't it? Okay, so now we're going the right direction. We'll put the sense of the heading bug up on the direction we're actually travelling. We'll go to heading mode. We'll change the FMS mode over. I just want to have a bit of fun, really. So that gives us the course bug. Can we press that as well to centre up? No, we can't. So we know we're going roughly the right direction. Let's go and tune in the Karachi VOR then. So what was it? 11210. So we'll have to go via the radios down here, and we'll memory is shocking. 11210. So let's transfer that to active. So we've picked it up. So do we get a distance measuring equipment somewhere in the cockpit, or is it just shows it on here, I guess? Somewhere. I imagine you can put, oh, it's at the top, isn't it? Although that's going to be using the GPS data. So although we have this hangover of being able to play with this, can we not bring it up on this screen? This will be this screen, won't it? So we've got bearings, speed bugs, PDF settings, wind on. So that gives us the vector wind relative to us. What's the flight path marker do? Interesting. We can do SVT terrain as well if we want to. I usually switch it off, so we don't need it. We can see out the window. Okay, we must be getting close to 100 miles out now. Yeah, so should we just start coming down gently rather than use VNav? We'll leave auto throttle on, of course, but we'll start coming down. What's going on? Oh, of course we've got no, I didn't set an altitude target, being an idiot. So let's bring this down to 10,000 feet at least. And then go vertical speed mode to get there, and now it will behave. So if we came down at 1,000 feet a minute, we can actually see, you can cheat in LittleNavMap. Notice there's a vector on the aeroplane when you zoom in on the altitude plot. So you can judge your rate of descent. Obviously this isn't going to get to KC, anything like the altitude we need to be at. Are there any minimums? Well, this isn't really showing any, is it? This is where LittleNavMap starts to fall down. So if you remember looking at Navigraph, yeah, we have to be below 170 at Kajal. Is that written in here as well? No. I wonder why not. So it was 5,000 feet, wasn't it? The barometric, sorry, the transition level. A bit different to the US where it's 18,000, isn't it? So let's get this to come down a bit faster, and we can show that that vector on LittleNavMap will be turning. Look. So we're shooting towards KC at an appropriate altitude, basically. These mountains are incredible, aren't they? Part of the world is absolutely stunning. So, on about the difference between Navigraph and LittleNavMap. They both have pros and cons. So obviously you don't get charts in LittleNavMap. You also don't get the overlays that are available in Navigraph. There's so many different overlays you can show. But by the same token, Navigraph can't show multiple aircraft in the same way that LittleNavMap can. You can't draw on the map as easily. Bizarrely, you can if you pull up just the chart on its own. So if I went and actually pulled up this chart, then I get the drawing tools and I can draw all over them, yeah, and do what I want. I just realised I haven't been running Volanta and I've been using it for the other flights. I'll record the end of the flight on Volanta, okay? So, Volanta. So at least we've got the track recorded, which you can do in Volanta, it won't harm at all. And this was an autopilot flight, really. So we've got the C700, which is the ICAO code for the aircraft. So if I upload the image that we used earlier, so it will keep it on record in Volanta for us, and I'll put my usual call sign in, and flight number will be World 07. and we can add the flight plan by borrowing it from LittleNavMap. So if I go flight, copy it to the clipboard, add the flight plan, enter a text route, paste it, get rid of that bit because it won't understand it, save it, and there we are. So we just leave this running. Obviously it's only going to have data look on us from now on. It's very cool though, isn't it? So we'll leave that running in the background, recording our flight for posterity. Oh yes, I hadn't noticed that. I just read the live stream comments and they said, oh yeah, the DME is down there. I just hadn't noticed it. We're going to be switching back to GPS though. Well, I'll do it now actually. So if I go to the home screen, change the mode to FMS, and I need to change the radio back over, ready for ILS later. Transfer 1097 back to the primary frequency. Still descending. So did this turn nav mode off? Yeah, it did. So when you change modes on the CDI, it will typically switch off nav mode. So you just need to be mindful of that one. How are we doing on that descent? Could probably do it come down a bit steeper, couldn't we? It's already coming down 1,500 feet at the moment. Let's go for 1,800 feet a minute. Yeah, VNav would have followed the programmed heights if we had programmed them. Remember, we only entered the waypoints in manually, so I didn't put all of the information in. If we pulled it from Simbrief, for example, it would have loaded everything. Okay, so Kajal, looking at Navigraph, is below 170, so we're way high. So let's go and expedite this. Aren't spoilers a wonderful thing? So we're just getting down to 17,000 rather quickly. A little bit high as we came through Kajal, but we can see, look, the flight plan profile for VNav is there. So let's stop flight level change. Is it going to pull it out? It isn't, is it? It's being a so-and-so. because we haven't programmed the stuff in. I'm guessing without having the VNav, it would just be doing a straight line down to the runway from our cruise altitude. Whoa, we've got drawings all over this now. So can we clear the annotations? There we go. So above 140 at the next one, so we need to hold altitude probably, unless we just slow the descent right down. Let's have a look from outside. Well, what altitude are we at? 14,000. Yeah, we don't need landing lights yet. So we're going to have a fun approach then. We're going to need the ILS by the look of it. So after this, we're just aiming for 3,000 feet at Sabin. So we'll go and program that in. 3,000 feet. Just coming through the waypoint. And this is where it gets fun, because if you look here, Sabin's over there, look. So we want a little bit more. We can exaggerate this diagram so we can see the vector down to there. We also want to get the speed back. We're way fast at the moment, so we want 250 knots. Can we switch this back between Mach and... It's showing Mach up here at the moment. Do we have to click it? There we do, there we go. So we want it to 250 knots when we get to 10,000 feet. We also want to descend a bit faster. A bit more again. I know this is cheating. Normally you could do this with mental arithmetic and figure out based on distance and descent rate. That's broadly in the right parameters. So we have to be above 3,000 to Sabin, remember. So that's good. So Sabin is the turn in. It gives us plenty of time to get the localizer and the glide slope sorted out. It's going to be fun looking outside though, isn't it? Going to have to earn my keep as a pilot in the for the next few minutes. So you can see, yeah, it's straight lining the profile because we didn't program anything in. So it's done based on the descent rate that was in the little PFD. Sorry, the personal device over here. That marker would be the straight line descent down to the runway, I guess. So on speed. Now, were there any speed restrictions on the way around here? 230 knots at Sabin. So we don't need to worry about that just yet. So coming down through 10,000 feet, we'll need to find out also while we're descending down here the barometric pressure at the destination. So just a little bit ahead of time, but let's go and get the landing lights on. And while we're at it then, we'll go and find out the weather. So 1003 or 2962. But we don't do that until we get to 5,000 feet according to the charts. because when I originally programmed the route, look, I didn't put the altitudes in at the various steps, therefore VNav had nothing to go on. How are we doing on the descent? Yeah, we're still on target to get to Sabin. You can zoom this vertically as well to make it more pronounced. Obviously, as you move this along, look, you can see the circle moving on the map as well. It's very clever. So let's slow ourselves down to 230 knots. Which will obviously change the radius of the turns, or it should. Let's see if they change. See, it's interesting that it's simulating that, but not the turn there. So let's just have a quick look at the flight plan and see if there are vectors in there. Sabin. No, it's fine. So 230 knots above 3,000. Well, we're just coming down through 5,000 or something. We're in the cloud now. So we won't look at the map anymore, we'll just use the instruments and use what the crew would have. We could put synthetic terrain on, of course, and then we can see straight through the cloud, which is always fun. Oh yes, there is a hold at Sabin. You're good point there. Well spotted. I didn't even look at that. So, remove hold. Otherwise, we'll get stuck there. It's part of the standard approach. If you look at the chart, yeah. So you get stuck into the hold at Sabin, which is an interesting one. And that has now, yeah, it's rounded off that corner. So obviously it wasn't going to draw the hold until we were actually there. That makes a lot of sense. So then we're coming in towards the airfield now. So 4,000 feet, we're coming down out of the cloud, which is good. Should we put the head tracking on? So let's lower our speed down. I'm going to turn head tracking off to do this sort of thing. The auto throttle's working. I guess it's just on gliding, isn't it? Let's give them a bit of help. So we're at 3,000 feet now, so it's obviously losing speed naturally. As soon as we're straightened up, we'll go to heading mode and then switch over to VLOC mode. Is that the glide slope I can just see coming through? Is it doing both at the same time? That's interesting. Let's go and change the FMS source to lock 1. Yeah, we've just seen the glide slope go through, so I'm coming off the autopilot. Presumably that means I can now control the speed myself. So, localizer.
Sync rate. Sync rate.
It's okay. One thing at a time. The autopilot did some crazy things to the trim. I'm just stopping that and getting it to behave itself. Do we have a distance to go somewhere? I'm trying to get the view so you can see. There you go. So you get a nice view of what's coming. Let's get onto the glide slope, shall we? It's about time we did. And there's the runway. And some rain, just to finish it off. Whoa!
100.
The wind suddenly changed.
50. 40. 30.
We had a wind shear or something there. That was awful. We suddenly lost all speed and lift.
20. 10.
And now it's picking up again. How strange. I mean, we had loads of time on the runway anyway, so there was never reason to worry. Okay, so look at that glare shield, is so in the way of seeing anything. So yeah, I don't know, the longitude is good fun, but it often doesn't feel right. If that makes any sense. I guess we've been spoiled, or certainly I have, because I've flown so many of what you might call study level airplanes now that have got wonderfully done flight models and that behave as you would expect. But then I haven't flown it for a long time, so I'm rusty, and I was behind the plane at times. So it's only to be expected, really. Okay, so how do we go about shutting this thing down? There's some switches over here, isn't there? Batteries. So is there anything else we have to turn off first? Don't think so. I think there's just master switches for everything.
Failure.
Yep. So there we go. It is a nice looking aeroplane though, isn't it? It's just a shame it doesn't fly that wonderfully. But it was simple and it was easy to get through the leg. And the next one in the world tour is in the books. So, that being said, let's go and have a quick look at the map and see where the next leg might take us. So if we did, I'll just save that so I can put it into... Oh, actually, let's go and... I just want to screenshot this so I can put it in the... in the blog post that will accompany this flight. So then, yeah, from here then, the next one will probably be, so file, new flight plan. Set that as the departure, put it off to one side out of the way. Where will the next route go? We're going to go across India. So 700 or 800 miles, although if we do this in smaller aeroplanes we could just go airport hopping and go GA for a while. Although we've left the mountains behind now, so it'll be very barren. Questions. If we went airport hopping we could, but yeah, even that one, that's going to be 80 miles or best part of across nothing. So whether we get down towards Mumbai in a jet or just a fast turboprop. And then start airport hopping across. Although that's, look at that sequence of airfields there, that looks ripe to be hopped across, doesn't it? So to follow that line, or that one, that's even better. And just go airport hopping all the way across. So if we were going to do it, we'd be doing something like, well, this would be several flights by the way, and then follow that line of airports all the way, because you could do these in GA planes, and like we said, bust out some of the older planes in the sim. And do this. It would work quite well, wouldn't it? So that's 750 miles. That's doable. So you could put some other smaller airfields on the way. Oh, wrong way to do that. You need to add it instead of append it. Oops. It helps if you actually click on it. Is there another one here that we could break this up a bit? There's one there. Add. So you could do some airfield hopping basically to get to Nagpur, and then do the same to get across to Kolkata. So if someone's asking what it looked like in Volanta, let's go and have a look. So if we review our flight, so obviously we only recorded the last little bit with a flight track, but that's fine. So we came in. Let's return the satellite mode off. So we flew overhead over the VOR, and then a slow descending, decelerating turn. Then I took over and started talking and not really concentrating. So it was a bit of a wiggle going on the final descent. and we landed at 130 feet per minute. But we missed the markers on the runway because we were floating and playing around with the flaps and trying to figure out how the aeroplane behaves. But yeah, it was an interesting approach. And there was our Stuka dive. Spoilers out, engine idle, realizing we weren't exactly on profile. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching, those that have been following along. So yeah, I imagine the next trip then will be from Karachi over to Nagpur. Airfield hopping with something a bit smaller, maybe a turboprop. We'll see. And we'll do touch and goes at each airfield along the way, and have a read while we're en route in between each leg. We can have a read about the next place on the internet and find out what the places are, you know, where we are in the world and what the people live in these various places. Because obviously there's a whole world out there and there's loads to learn about it, so it's going to be fun. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go and write my blog post up about this leg, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.